Wakusu family, I'm here with another episode of the Pan-African Family Cooking Show. I'm here with my niece, Naija, who is expecting the next generation of our family. And so, let's give us a side profile. There we go. So, because she's in her first apartment, I've been down here in Maryland, instead of in New York where I live. Down here in Maryland, I've been cooking and decorating and doing all sorts of fun stuff. In fact, I'm going to post a video that shows some of the home design stuff that we've been doing over the last couple of weeks that I've been here. But tonight, we are going to cook a little dinner because you got to feed pregnant people. And because she doesn't have a lot of experience with it, I'm going to teach her how to do a basic roast chicken dinner. And in this case, we are going to do the chicken, the starch, and the vegetables all in one pot that can get roasted 1, 2, 3 and have dinner on the table in about an hour and 10-15 minutes from start to finish. So as always, why don't we go through our ingredient mix? So one of the reasons that I want to do a roast chicken is because across cultures, across income levels, chicken is a staple. And a roast chicken in particularly, if you are on a budget, is a very, very easy way to get dinner on the table for a family and not spend a ton of money. In fact, one chicken, this chicken was about $6 or $7 at the grocery store. This one chicken is probably going to be enough for us to eat on for the rest of the week. We won't have to cook again if we don't want something different for at least 3 or 4 days from the time we finish roasting this chicken. The other nice thing about roasting a chicken is that when you are finished eating it, the carcass of the chicken is also usable to make a stock, which I will show in another video when I teach her how to do that. But here we have our chicken. It's one sort of medium-sized chicken. It's enough to feed probably 4 or 5 people. If you are a single person living alone, you could probably go down a size. But this chicken, like I said before, if it's just one person or just you and a kid or you and another person, would probably be enough to get a week's worth of meals, or at least 3 or 4 dinner and lunch meals out of this one bird. We've got some baby Yukon Gold potatoes that I've just washed and cut in half and left the skin on. We've got some carrots that I have cut into roughly the same size as the potatoes. That's just so that everything roasts relatively evenly. I've got a lemon that I've gone ahead and quartered. I've got half of an onion that I've also taken that half of onion and I've quartered that half of an onion. And you'll see why in just a moment. I've got a little bit of celery. The reason I'm using celery is because I don't have celery powder, and I like to put celery powder on a chicken if I have it available. It's not a spice that I keep in the spice cabinet all that regularly because I almost always have celery in the refrigerator and I can get the same effect. And celery is more useful. It is a lot more versatile than just the celery powder. Incidentally, I buy celery, not just the hearts, but celery that has the stems and the leaves attached. In this case, I've chopped the leaves of the celery that I diced, along with about a handful of parsley, fresh parsley, stems included, because you can eat the parsley stems. And then lastly, I've got a couple tablespoons of grass-fed Irish butter. We're going to use this butter today for no other reason than we just didn't go to the grocery store to get cooking oil and we're out of it. And I'm going to talk about some of the things that using a grass-fed butter will bring to the chicken as we start to prepare it. From our seasoning mix, we are going fairly basic. We're just using salt, pepper, and a couple of dried herbs. We've got our garlic powder. We've got a little bit of rosemary and basil and thyme and oregano. And that completes our seasoning mix. Oh, I forgot I did it with this. Good thing. Not if you. So we've already opened, unwrapped our chicken, and we have cleaned it. We've taken all of the insides out. We've washed it down in the sink and got it good and clean and prepared, so we're ready to work with it. The first step, if you want a nice crispy skin on your chicken, is you've got to dry it with paper towels or napkins or something. So we're gonna go ahead and just take our chicken out of this bowl, and I'm literally gonna towel it off with some paper towel. I'm gonna do the back, I'm gonna lay it down, and I'm gonna do the top. You're just pulling off all the excess water and moisture that washing it, put on the bird. And after you've washed it, it's just a final step to make sure that any of the residual gunk from, the packaging and shipping and being in the grocery store that you might have missed, you get that off. And the drier the outside of the bird is, you don't want to leave any paper on it, the drier the outside of the bird is, the crispier the skin will be, and the more juices you'll retain inside the bird, which is ultimately what we're looking for. All right. So now that we've done that, I'm actually going to take that back out of this pan and put it back into this bowl now that I've rinsed the bowl out, because we aren't going to work with the bird first. I'm going to wash my hands. What we're going to do first, actually, is work on our sides. The reason being, they're all going in the same pot, so what we're going to do here, is we're going to get a nice base at the bottom of the pan that we can cook all of our sides in, and then we're going to stuff our bird and season our bird and send it on its way. I'm looking at this, I actually want to grab a slightly bigger pan. We'll use the bigger pan, just so we've got a little more room to maneuver. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, again, because we don't have, we're not using olive oil, we're using this grass-fed butter. I'm going to take just one of the cubes. I've gone ahead and cubed it so that it's in a handy size. I want to grease the pan, and it doesn't have to be like, even or anything. I just want to get some fat on the bottom of the pan and just work it in. I'll just take a second cube and do the same thing on this side. Because I don't want the potatoes and stuff to stick, but not just that, I want to give a little bit of lubrication for when the chicken itself starts to drip down so that we get a nice sauce at the bottom of the pan. And the milk solids, it's the milk solids in this butter that are going to react with the heat and the steam and bubble up and thicken and make a nice sauce out of the chicken drippings. So you want to give it a base. Olive oil would do the same thing. Obviously, not with milk, not with milk solids, but with the fats from olive oil would do the same thing. And it's a little bit easier to work with the olive oil than it is having to use your hands and spread the butter. So I want to go ahead and take some of these potatoes. Now you could just throw them out, throw them down, but I actually am going to face them face down onto the pan. And actually, before I do that, sorry, one step, because I'm using unsalted butter, I want to actually put a slight layer of salt onto that butter. We want to season as we go along. So now I want to put my potatoes face down. The reason I'm putting them face down, and this step is not absolutely necessary, and you'll see I'm not going to be that precious about it, I'm just going to get a border, is because I want air to get underneath the chicken. So if I create sort of a border, it allows the chicken to sit up. And just because I've gone through the trouble of having these potatoes, it just makes a nice steady surface for it to do that. So I'm gonna do a little border around like that. And I'm gonna maybe do a couple in the middle, like that. And then the rest I can just sort of dump in. I don't have to care too much about the rest. I just want to make sure that there's at least some even surfaces for the chicken to sit on. And I'll just dump in the rest. You can turn them, just make sure that you don't disturb any. So that should give us enough air that can circulate underneath the chicken. And I'm going to hit it again with some salt for the potatoes and some pepper. Yep, it's coming out. The thing to realize about salt and pepper, which when we say we want to season our food, we're really talking about salt and pepper and maybe garlic. The rest of the stuff is flavoring your food. Salt makes whatever your food tastes like, it enhances it. So if it tastes like potatoes, when you add salt, it's going to make it more potatoey. It's going to make your carrots taste more carroty. When you add pepper, particularly black pepper, it's going to change the flavor. It's going to take the flavor that the food is, and it's going to add more depth of flavor. So salt enhances and pepper changes. And then I want to add some garlic. And I'm going to be fairly liberal with the garlic powder because I like garlic. And then I want to add just some of the basil. The reason I'm using dried, I use dried herbs when I'm roasting is because it seems it's something of a waste of too many fresh herbs if you put like a whole medley of all these fresh herbs and then you roast it for an hour and you sort of dry them out and suck them down, particularly the ones that aren't as hardy. We are going to put some fresh herbs in this though, just to keep it bright. And our fresh herb mix of the celery leaves and the parsley leaves, we're going to take just a pinch of that and scatter it around. There's a lot of water in vegetables, so that will help to flavor the broth that's going to end up at the bottom of the pan. Now we're going to add some of the celery and just sprinkle it in there. Same reasoning. We're going to add a little bit of the onion. Again, we're just taking handfuls of these things, not the entire measure. You might want to just break up the onions. The onions are really going to be giving us flavor. You'll see when this comes out of the oven, they will be sort of like really, really shrunken down. They're not going to be as recognizable. They will shrivel up a lot faster than the potatoes and the carrots because they're smaller and mostly water. So all of their flavor will get released into the broth. We're going to use the rest of them, however, to help flavor the chicken itself. And then lastly, we'll go ahead and put in some of these carrots all over to fill in the spaces, and just the rest of them. Which is why we made the carrots roughly the same size as the potatoes so that everything cooks evenly. You notice I'm keeping the carrots to the side and trying not to get too many of them directly under the chicken. Carrots are really, really hard and they take a while to cook. In fact, slightly longer than potatoes, which are a little bit softer. So I want to make sure that they have the most contact with the heat in the oven. All right, we're going to hit this with just a little bit more salt to cover the carrots that we just added. So we'll go around the outside. We don't want to worry about the potatoes anymore, but we've got a little bit of salt there. And we'll hit them with just a little bit more garlic, same sort of idea. Now we're ready for prime time. We're going to take our chicken, and the first thing we want to do before we put the chicken over here is we want to grease the chicken up. Sort of like when you get out of the shower, you want to put lotion on. So we're going to go ahead and lotion our chicken. So I'm going to grab one of these cubes, and I'm going to get it warm with my hands, and I'm literally just going to wipe it all over the chicken. And when I do that, it's going to allow the seasoning mix that I put on there to stick to the chicken, and it's also going to give us a nice golden brown and a crispy finish to the chicken skin, which is really, what's the point of eating chicken if the skin's not crispy? Yep. And you don't want your chicken to be greasy, so you saw we used a relatively small amount, just enough to get your hands a little bit shiny, and you just rub it around just like you're putting lotion on. You don't want to be ashy, you don't want an ashy chicken either. And it's just the outside. Now I'm going to ask you to grab the salt. It's nice when you have another person because I can hold this chicken and not have to wash my hands in between. The first step of seasoning a chicken is to actually season the chicken cavity. So go ahead and dump some salt in there, trying to hit as much of the inside as you can. Go ahead. Yep. Don't be scared. Good. Perfect. And I'll just stick my hand in there and just make sure that it hits the whole time. If you don't season the inside of your chicken, you will have, two things will happen. One, the chicken won't be that flavorful, in particular the breast. And two, your chicken won't be as juicy because salt sort of dehydrates things, so it pulls juices out. So when you season the inside here where all those bones are, you're actually pulling some of the juice and stuff that's in the marrow of the bones, you're pulling some of that out into the chicken itself, into the chicken meat. So it's a way to get flavor into the chicken. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn the chicken over so it's upside down, and I want you to hit it again with salt, and in fact, all of the seasonings. In fact, you can put some in my hand. More. Don't be scared. Good. And then I'll just go ahead and put it all over the back of that chicken. And then go ahead and hit it with garlic. It doesn't matter what order you put seasoning in, but I always like to put the salt first. And then give me some of the pepper. They're perfect. And then let's hit it with those 3 herbs. Cool. Perfect. Last but not least. Awesome. Now, I'm going to take this and I'm just going to move it over here and flip it upside down or right side up. And I'm going to have you just repeat that entire thing, making sure that you get it all over the bird while I wash my hands. I'm actually going to take the little leftovers that were there and get you started. There you go. Good.
Yeah.
Good? Think about it as if you were eating each of those pieces. You want to make sure that your wings, your legs, the thighs, whatever you're going to eat gets the seasoning. There you go. Get a little more on that side.
Here?
Yep. Good. Which is why we didn't put all that seasoning on the vegetables, because all that will drip down. Good. Okay. So, things are looking nice, and we're almost there. But the reality of it is we're going to put this into a 400-degree oven that I've already preheated. And it's a bird, the largest piece of which is the breast. And we know that the breast is the driest piece because it's white meat. There's little to no fat in the breast itself. And it's got an open cavity that air is going to go in, pulling all that moisture out. So we've got to do something to protect the moisture in the chicken, which is why we have these lemons. So I'm going to stick a couple of these quartered lemons, maybe 3, and then I'm going to take some of these onions. I don't want to use too much lemon because I don't want a bitter taste. You know, you can roast a lemon, but if you roast too much of it, that lemon juice will take on a bitter, or a sour, I should say, taste that's a little bit extreme. We want to create more of sort of like what the Japanese call umami, I think is what they refer to it as. It's really just the depth of flavor. And mixing our salted inside with the chicken droppings and the fat from the chicken, along with the acid from the lemon and the pungency of the onion, is going to give us a nice flavor. And because both of those ingredients are heavily waterlogged, they're going to sort of dam up the chicken cavity and release juices. As the juices pour out, they'll be there to hold them in and keep that moisture and that humidity inside the bird so that we get nice, plump, juicy breast, even as we get nice, dry, crispy outside skin. That's the trick. When you stuff a chicken with some lemons, and you can stuff it with anything, obviously the wetter the ingredient, the juicier it'll be. It becomes very, very hard to overcook a chicken when you do it this way. Your wings can get crispy and you can eat them because if a wing is really crispy, you can eat it bones and all, but you cannot eat a dry piece of breast. So we've got that. And the rest of the ingredients we're going to apply to the chicken after we take it out of the oven. We'll just garnish it with some more of the fresh the fresh herbs, and we'll hit with a little bit more of a squeeze of lemon as we go halfway through and maybe when we baste it. So now this chicken is ready to go into the oven. So why don't you go ahead and get it there?
You want to wrap it or anything?
Nope. Mm-hmm. And now we wait. All right, we're back from the grocery store, and in that time, our chicken should be done. All right, Naija, let's see what we got. Let's make room. Go ahead and bring it over here.
Here?
On the nice. As you can see, a little bit, our chicken is nicely browned. We've got our vegetables, have all got good color. We've got a lot of pan juices. And the only thing we've got to do now is carve this sucker up and eat. Naija likes dark meat. So we've got our nicely charred and roasted vegetables. We've got our crispy skin. And now, Naija, go ahead and dig in and give us a taste test.
Should I get vegetables too?
Yeah, get it all on there.
This is so good.
You tasting all the herbs?
Yes. This is really good. I might be really hungry though.
So, you think you have a chicken recipe you're going to follow from now on?
I do.
All right. Nice and moist?
It's very juicy. Very juicy.
Well, that is another episode of the Pan-African Family Cooking Show. I'm going to let the pregnant lady dig in and eat her food. And with that, we sign off. Wakusu family, until next time.